Alright, so I'm going to go through some of the problems for each of these. At the top of your review it says for 1 through 3, but it's for 1 through 6. So in 1 through 6, you're listing out the 6 sets of congruent parts, so the 3 angles and the 3 sides. So remember, for angles we list them with one letter, so you're just going to match up the position. So the first letter in the first triangle is A, so that means it's equal to the first letter of the second triangle. So I know that angle A is equal to angle X. So you're going to do that for the other one. I'm going to look at the second letters. So I have B and Y. So angle B is equal to angle Y. And then finally, you're going to do that with the third letters, C and Z. So angle C is equal to angle Z. Now, angles, you use one letter. Sides, you have to use 2 letters. So we're going to do the similar stuff. I'm going to look at the first 2 letters of the first triangle and the first 2 letters of the second. So I know that side A, B is equal to side XY. Now I'm going to do it for the second and third, so BC and YZ. And then finally I use the third and the first, so C goes with A, which is equal to ZX. So then I have CA equals ZX. So that's what you're doing for 1 through 6. You're listing the 3 sets of equal angles and the 3 sets of equal sides. I'm going to go ahead and do number 2 as well with you. So we'll start with the angles. I want to look at the first letter of each triangle. So I know that angle L is equal to angle D. I'm now going to look at the second letters, so T and W. Angle T is equal to angle W. And then finally the third letter, R and S. So angle R is equal to angle S. And then remember, for your sides you're using 2 letters. So I'm looking at the first 2 letters of each triangle. That means that side LT is equal to DW. I do the second and third letters now. So side TR is equal to WS. And finally, for that last set, I look at the third and the first of each triangle. So that tells me that RL is equal to SD. Alright, so for 4 through 9, you're finishing the congruency statement. I give you the order of the first triangle. So number 4, I tell you this is going to be triangle LKM. That tells you what order you need to write the second one in. So what I do is I always list the number of markings on the angles. So there's 1 on the L, 3 on the M, and 2 on the K. And since we're going from L to K to M, I draw arrows. I'm going from L to K and then K to M, which means I started at 1, I went to 2, and then finally I ended up at 3. So I'm going to do the same thing with the other triangle. I'm going to label the markings first, 1, 2, and 3. And we just talked about the order we went in. We went from 1 to 2 to 3. So I'm going to start at the letter that has 1 angle marking, which is C. I'm going to go to the one that has 2, which is D. And then finally I end at the one with 3 angle markings, which is E. Number 5 is the exact same. We have STR. So on that first triangle, I'm going to label the markings again. S is 3, R has 1, and T has 2. So I went from S down to T to R. So I went from 3 to 2 to 1. So I'm going to write that out here. Now in the second triangle, I'm going to label the markings as well. F has 1, D has 3, and E has 2. Remember, we want to go in the order from 3 to 2 to 1. So I start at 3, which is D. I go to 2, which is E. And I end at 1, which is F. So this is what you're going to do for 6, 7, 8, and 9. You're going to label those markings, figure out the order, and then just list out the order of the triangle. Alright, so for 10 through 27, you are determining if the triangles are congruent and how they are. So remember, we have 5 different ways. We have side, 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 angle, side, angle, side, angle, 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 side, and then finally hypotenuse leg. And it all depends on the information you're given in the problems. So when I look at number 10, I have 2 sets of equal sides. So I have 1 set, I have 2 sets. And they share this third side, which means that's also another equal set of sides. So every time I see a matching piece, like a matching set of sides, whatever, I list it out to the right. Here, it gives you what it is. These are congruent, and they're congruent by side, side, side. On number 11, if you see two triangles like this and they have angles across from each other, you need to remember that these are vertical angles and they're equal. So when I look here, I have an equal set of sides right here and right here. So I have one set of sides. I have an equal set of angles with the one tick mark, so that's an angle. And then I have another equal set of angles, which are vertical angles, so here. When I'm looking at what order they go in, I need to see if that side comes between the two angles. If it was between, it would be right here, and it's not. So that tells us that these are congruent, and they're congruent by angle, angle, side. We're using one of these 5 over here. If it doesn't fit one of those 5, it's not congruent. So in number 12, you have that same scenario with the vertical angles. So I'm going to go ahead and list my information. I see here that I have a set of equal sides. So that's one side. I have a set of other equal sides, so that's another one. And then, of course, I have those vertical angles. So I have side, side, angle. When I look over at my 5, though, I don't have anything like that. So that means I need to look at the placement of the angle. If you notice, your angle is between the two sides. So that means when I list it out, the angle needs to be between the two sides. These triangles are congruent, and they're congruent by side, angle, side. On 13, they have that shared side. So I know right here I have a set of equal sides. I see that I have an angle set with 2 tick marks, 1 tick mark, sorry, and then I have another one with 2 tick marks. Now I don't have a side angle over here as one of my 5s, but if you notice, that side is between the 2 angle and the 1 angle. So when I list it, it needs to be that way too. I have my 2 angles on the outside and the side in the middle. So these triangles are congruent by angle, side, angle. I'm going to do 14 as the last one. Remember, the rest of them, the solutions are already uploaded, and if you need more help, you need to make sure you join my live session today at 3:30. They do have this shared side right here, so I'm going to put 1 tick mark on it. So I have one set of sides. I see this other one with 2 tick marks, another set. And finally, I have these angles. So I have 2 sets of congruent sides and an angle. When I look, I have my side, my angle, and then my side. So that's exactly how I'm going to list it. I have a side, an angle, and then another side. So 14, they are congruent by side, angle, side. This last section, 28 through 36, this is dealing with isosceles and equilateral triangles. So the first thing you should always do is look at your tick marks. There's 2 here, it means it's an isosceles triangle. I draw arrows across to the angles so that way I know which ones are equal. That tells me that 2x plus 17 is equal to 8x minus 13. So I'm going to set it up just like that. 2x plus 17 is equal to 8x minus 13. And I can now solve this for x. I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides. When I do that, it cancels out on the left. And I'm left with 17 is equal to 8 minus 2 is 6x minus 13. I'm going to add 13 to both sides. So 17 plus 13 gives me 30, which is still equal to 6x. And I'm going to divide both sides by 6 so that x is equal to 5. Alright, so in 29, you're going to look at your tick marks again and draw those arrows across. One of the angles is blank, but I know it's equal to 43 because those 2 angles should be equal to each other. I now have 3 angles of a triangle, and I know when I add them together, they should equal 180. So I'm going to take my first one, 8x minus 42, plus my second one, 43, plus my third one, another 43, and remember that equals up to 180. I'm now going to combine my like terms, so negative 42 plus 43 plus another 43 leaves me with 44, so I have 8x plus 44 is equal to 180. I'm going to subtract that 44 from both sides. And I'm left with 8x equals 136. My last step is to divide both sides by 8. So x equals 17. So if you're given the 2 bottom angles that should be equal, you set them equal and solve, like in number 28. If you have to fill in that third angle because they're equal, then you take all 3 angles, add them up together, and equal it to 180. So now we're going to actually start in on the sides. You're going to draw your arrows, but this time you're drawing from the angles to the sides. That tells you which sides are equal to each other. And remember, if they're equal, then you set them equal. So 2x minus 8 is equal to 12. I need to solve for x. I'm going to add 8 to both sides. and I end up with 2x is equal to 20. My last step here is to divide both sides by 2, so x is equal to 10. 9 times out of 10 when you're looking for sides of isosceles or equilateral, you're just going to set the two things equal to each other and solve for x. I'm going to go ahead and do 34 as well, just because it's an equilateral. So again, I'm drawing those arrows from the angles to the sides, so I know which sides are equal to each other. It's an equilateral, so all of them end up being equal. And in order to solve that, I'm just going to set the two expressions equal. So x plus 21 is equal to 10. I want to get x by itself, so I'm going to subtract 21 from both sides. So x is going to equal negative 11. And that's what you're going to do for 35 and 36 as well. Remember, your test is tomorrow. I would highly advise to make sure you know how to do this review because you're going to see a lot of these problems on the test tomorrow.